Thanks for joining us on Tuesday Live tonight. Omini Odan is my name. The Federal Executive Council, presided over by President Muhammadu Buhari, on 24th of June 2020 approved 2.3 trillion naira for the implementation of the Nigeria Economic Sustainability Plan. The fund is to respond to the threats of economic downturn induced by COVID-19 alongside the global meltdown reflecting on international commodities, including the oil market. The Economic Sustainability Fund is to principally address fiscal measures to enhance oil and non-oil government revenues and reduce non-essential spending, create financial stimulus package for the Nigerian economy, target specific measures to support the 36 states and the FCT, and achieve reduction of unemployment through support for medium and small-scale enterprises and the creation of jobs, among others. The economic framework is developed to work for the period of 12 months as a transit plan between economic recovery and growth plan of 2017 to 2020 and the new national development plan of 2021 to 2025. This is to stabilize the national economy, cushion the effects of COVID-19 and fast-track development by the report of the National Bureau of Statistics. Nigeria's gross domestic product dropped by 6.1%, which is the second lowest compared to other countries, a clear indication that the economy is steadily and gradually growing even with the global economic downturn. Tonight on NTA Tuesday Live, we focus on the working of the economy under global challenges. But before we go into the program proper, here is a background report put together by Chimaobi Walter Naji.
Since the first case of coronavirus was recorded on February 27th in Nigeria, a lot of burden has been placed on the economy due to the subsequent lockdown measures introduced by the federal government to forestall the looming economic meltdown. One of the measures introduced by the federal government is the injection of a 2.5 trillion naira economic stimulus package. The money domiciled at the CBN is geared towards stimulating real sector growth and develop engagements along production value chains. Out of the 2.5 trillion naira, 1.2 trillion naira is to be sourced as structured low-cost loans to individuals and businesses affected by the COVID-19 lockdown measures. Some of the sectors targeted include the agricultural sector, manufacturing sector, micro, small and medium enterprises, and the creation of jobs, among others. The health sector was one of such sectors with specific focus as the federal government, through the Office of the Secretary to the Government of the Federation and the Central Bank of Nigeria, invested in medical research to boost the health system post-COVID-19.
Currently, 20 projects valued at over 26.27 billion naira have been approved and funded by the CBN under our 100 billion naira credit support intervention for the healthcare industry. The program is designed to increase the nation's research and development activities that will help support the development of Nigeria-made vaccines, drugs, and herbal medicines.
The process will be driven by science, data, and facts that will be made available to you, so that as we are dealing with the adverse negative effects of COVID-19, we will also be setting a new pace of our healthcare delivery system.
These disbursements, economic analyst believes, is responsible for the federal government's achievements in the fight against COVID-19 and the mild negative growth of minus 6.10% GDP rating recorded for the second quarter of the year compared to other countries. The Nigerian Economic Sustainability Plan is a 12-month transit plan between the Economic Recovery and Growth Plan expected to terminate by December this year and the new National Development Plan expected to kick off in 2021. In Abuja, Chimaobi Walter Naji.
The Economic Sustainability Plan is the focus of Tuesday Live tonight, and Chimal B. Walter Naji's report sets the tone for the takeoff of the program. At some point in the course of the program, our phone lines will be open, and please, when we are true to you, turn down the volume of your television set and go straight to the point. Don't rigmarole. Also, you can be part of the conversation tonight through our Twitter handle at Tuesday Live NTA. I'm being joined tonight by the Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning via Zoom in Abuja, Zainab Ahmed. Good to have you on the program tonight.
Hello, good evening. Nice to be here this night.
Also tonight on the program we have the Senior Special Assistant to the President on Public Affairs, Ajuri Ngalale. Welcome to the program.
It's always a privilege. Thank you for having me.
Joining us from our Kaduna Network Center is Yushau Ango, Associate Professor of Business Entrepreneurship and Dean, Postgraduate School. Welcome to Tuesday Live.
Good evening. Thank you very much for having me.
Professor Aderibingbe Olomola, Head of Research Management Department in the Nigeria Social and Economic Research, Ibadan. He has been part of the formulation of some economic and social policies of the federal government. Good to have you on the program tonight.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Also, in the course of the program, we shall be bringing you reports dotting the landscape of the country, all to keep you abreast of what this whole stimulus plan is about for the nation's economy. Let's begin with the Minister of Finance. Could you please give us, in perspective, what this plan is all about?
Well, thank you very much. This plan was designed to help support the economy to weather the storm of the double whammy that we have of the COVID-19 pandemic, as well as the crash in the crude oil price. While at the beginning, our initial focus was how to respond to the health crisis, how to revise our plans and cut down on non-essential expenditures so that we can free funds to apply to the health emergencies, we very quickly also were directed to start looking at how to stabilize the economy. In doing that, we had to revise the budget, we have to revise the medium-term expenditure plan, we have to cut down on spending to enable us use the limited resources to also increase funding. We also had to source for external funds to augment the limited resources that we have. So we set out to find and we secured some concessionary funding. It's important for us to have monies within the economy because it was clear that the economy was going to be hard hit because of this double whammy, and that our assessment was the year 2020 would probably see us closing with a negative growth of minus 4.4%. And to be able to obviate that growth, we needed to design a program that creates a lot of economic activity at the lower to middle strata of the economy, and also allow us to put resources into the hands of as many Nigerians as possible by engaging them in productive activity. So this ESP was designed to be a plan that would be largely Nigeria-driven, using local resources, as much as possible, minimizing any foreign inputs, to create jobs in construction of roads, construction of houses, provision of funding to support micro and small enterprises so that their businesses can be revived and survive, and that they can retain jobs and also even be able to create new ones. So we have 5 major activities: construction of rural roads, construction of mass housing, funding for small, medium enterprises, the humanitarian interventions to help the poor and the very, very vulnerable, providing funds to through the CBN intervention to enable businesses that are most affected, like the aviation industry, transportation sector, and the health sector, to be able to stabilize their businesses. The president also supported us, and we're able to support the states, because this is a federation, by arranging to have a stay on some of their debt service obligations so that they can have more liquidity within their own system, because the purse was getting very, very small. So we were able to suspend for about 18 months the debt service, that states obligations to the federal government and to the central bank, to free up resources for the states. This program is designed to be nationwide. It's the federal government designed the program, consulted with the states, consulted with the parliament, and also with a number of groups that made inputs into the process. The essence is that it will be a national program, and that the deployment, even though is being led by the federal government, but the implementation is at state level. For example, one of the projects is to have employment of 774,000 jobs. The choice of the people to do those jobs will be from the ward level to the local government level. So it won't be federal government that is making those choices. And the essence is to keep people within their community, to be able to do the jobs within their community, to minimize cost, but to create economic activity and help people step into productive activities that will eventually help the nation. And I think the measures we have taken have beginning to show positive results. The impact on the economy from the result of the just yesterday result that we released of the second quarter 2020 shows that the impact is minimal on Nigeria. If you look at what the impact has been in other economies in the US, UK, Europe, several countries of the world is double digits, so over 20%. And even back here in Africa, South Africa's negative growth is projected to be anything between 20 to 50%. So the Nigerian economy has outperformed even our own assessment, has outperformed the assessment that has been made by the IMF and the World Bank. And our assessment was Q2 was going to be the worst quarter. Q3 will be better. We have released a lot of funds now within the economy for capital projects in the revised 2020 budget. We've released funds for the deployment of the economic sustainability plan. So we're seeing Q3 going to be better than Q2, and we are even hoping that by Q4 the result will be turning positive, but if not, at least by Q1 2021.
Thank you so much. We'll come back to you for other perspectives as the program progresses. Now, let's go to Ajuri. Ajuri, we know this is a huge deployment, coordination of so many MDAs, so many sectors, both in the public and private sectors. Let's look at the agricultural portfolio. How is it going to run, or how is it running?
Thank you so much. Well, as you know, there have been a very robust and strategic set of interventions in the agricultural sector, even before COVID-19. This is essentially an opportunity for us as a nation, and certainly for President Muhammadu Buhari and his administration, to be able to deepen that work and really extend and expand the productive capacity of that sector on the nation's economy. Specifically speaking now, within the Nigeria Economic Sustainability Plan, you have a very robust kind of cooperation between the federal government and, of course, all state governments of the federation, irrespective of political affiliation, where all state governments have agreed to supply between 20,000 and 100,000 hectares of land from each state, which is, of course, extremely significant. At that point, we're then partnering with the private sector and all of that to ensure that we're able to do two major things. One is we clear the land, right? Essentially expanding the nation's base of cultivatable lands for production. And then we, after clearing the land, cultivate the land. But we're not just cultivating for the sake of cultivating or, providing jobs for the sake of providing jobs. We're actually especially targeting, really high value export commodities. When we're talking about cash crops such as cashew, such as cocoa, such as sesame seed, and many others that can really get the nation the bang for our buck, if you will, per hectare of land. And of course, in the process of that, you're going to see the employment, a sustainable employment, by the way, of millions of young people all across the country from the localities. And that's very critical because it is within the thrust of President Muhammadu Buhari's vision for the agricultural sector that we prioritize the process very intentionally of really creating a kind of cross-generational pattern, if you will, where we're intentionally encouraging young people to get into the into agricultural production and cultivation, so that we have a sustainable set of producers all across this country, across all value chains and across systems. Now, how is it going to be funded? You're looking at approximately well over 600 billion naira that is dedicated to the agricultural component of the economic sustainability plan. That's going to involve the massive distribution of essentially zero interest credit facilities to millions of farmers all across the country to be able to make life as easy on them as possible. But we're not just looking at it from the front end. We're also from the back end rather. We're also looking at it from the front end. Once they produce, what now happens to the harvest? So within this plan, you also have a very strategic set of inputs from the federal government, essentially allowing us to be positioned as off-takers of the produce, so that aside from just kind of exporting the produce, we're also off-taking it for the federal government's own strategic grain reserves. For example, we're going to be creating commodity exchanges to really facilitate the process of commercial transaction amongst the actors in the sector while they're producing. And then the last point I will make is we're also targeting rural farms within this plan, within other components of this plan, for rural electrification through mini-grids. So our farmers have consistently complained to us that the problem that they have found is that, yes, President Muhammadu Buhari has been fantastic in terms of supplying seedlings, supplying low-interest credit facilities, slashing the price of fertilizer in half after, of course, resuscitating over 31 fertilizer blending plants across the country. He's done all of that. But once we produce, the issue now is about how do we avoid post-harvest losses. And a big part of the post-harvest losses our farmers are suffering is as a result of inadequate power supply within the storage facilities. So they don't have 24-hour refrigeration capacity in their storage facilities, leading to a lot of spoiled goods. So this, economic sustainability plan envisages all of that and essentially says we're going to target rural farms with mini-grid systems so that they can have the kind of reliable and sustainable power supply that will allow them to maximize the gains from the produce that they're producing.
Okay, let's leave it there. We'll go to other sectors. Let me go to Professor Yushau in Kaduna. Listening to the Minister of Finance read out the general principles and perspective to this plan, and also what the Senior Special Assistant just said, we talk about implementation. Within the ambit of implementation, what's your assessment so far?
Well, I can see from the time the approval was given, a number of things have happened. That is with regards to monetary and fiscal policies, as regards the plan. There are some fiscal policies that are going along with the real sector policies which the minister mentioned and the SSA mentioned. Now, for example, the policy is that there will be deregulation of petroleum prices. That has happened. We have seen what the CBN, for example, just yesterday released with regards to foreign exchange management. What they are doing, or what they have tried to do now, is to avoid cases or incidences of third-party payments and all that. Those are monetary aspects of the implementation. Now, as far as what I would call the soft aspects of the implementation are concerned, we can see that these have taken place already. We know also, for example, the issue of the 774,000 hands that will be employed, 1,000 per local government. I know there has been quite a lot of debate, but it looks like it's about to take off. So a few of these activities have started, and the central bank on its own part, we can see also they are also releasing funds, and like the Honorable Minister said, they have released funds especially for capital projects. Now the whole idea and the whole essence, in my opinion and my understanding of this plan, is that is really homegrown, just like the Honorable Minister said. It's a plan that aims at ensuring that we use what is available in Nigeria in terms of raw materials, in terms of resources. We also, even in terms of labor, you know, for the housing sector, for example, the idea is to use Nigerian, not only Nigerian products, but Nigerian labor, you know, in all respects, to develop the houses. So I think in its essence, we have started well, but for the agricultural side, for example, it will take a while, you know, for all the programs to be implemented. But I think in a way, we have started a little bit well. And I'm happy with the Q2 result we have seen. We certainly are optimistic that Q3 and 4 will be much better.
Professor Olomola, you have been part of the process and looking at it from the perspective of value addition. If we tinker towards value addition in the long run, where are we heading?
Well, thank you very much. There are many things to consider in the plan to generate the desired value addition. There must be an expansion in production in the various sectors, especially in the rich sectors, and also improved productivity if we need to generate the desired value addition. To also get this, the speed of implementation, the momentum must really be very rapid, because if you look at the experience of Nigeria in terms of implementing a plan, the first area of worry which we need to watch carefully is the duration of this plan, 12 months. What is the level of value addition that we are likely to generate in 12 months? It also coincides with our budget cycle, usually 12 months. And over the past few years, we would see that the implementation of the budget in terms of proportion and implementation performance has not been as expected. So these areas we need to watch carefully. Are we likely to generate the desired value addition in the space of 12 months? And if you look at the various sectors, the critical sectors that we need to generate value addition, the real sector, you take agriculture for example, we can see that the sector has been badly hit by the pandemic and also by climate change, the climatic conditions. Currently, if you see some areas where we should have been having rain in the past 30 days, it has been scanty. And if you see even the implementation in the agricultural sector, where we also expect a lot of value addition with the number of value chains, commodities, large commodities that people depend on for livelihood and for employment, we need to speed up implementation to get the desired value addition. And this means that the whole process should be depoliticized. There's overwhelming political bearing on a number of the landmarks and the milestones that we need to watch so that the process is not encumbered by political maneuvers in order to generate the desired results in terms of increased employment, reduction of poverty, and the medium-sized companies that are almost collapsing now can easily be revived. So these are the things to consider. Also, in terms of input, we will need to implement the plan in terms of the funds is major. It's major. The budget has 500 billion immediately from special funds that can be used as an important source. But from the past, we need to make sure that the release of these funds should be prompt. Because look at see the National Social Investment Plan was 500 billion. At the end of the day, after 2 or so years, we never went as far as we will expect in terms of the release of the funds, and then in order to generate the employment and the value added in various sectors. So this one we need to watch in terms of the release of funds, and all the agencies that are involved should work speedily. We need to work speedily because some of the things we need to do in some sectors are time-bound. Construction, production of mass houses, agricultural production, these are time-bound activities so that we don't miss the process. So this is very important. There's also foreign infusion in terms of the funds that we will need. We need about $7.013 billion dollars that we need to source from external sources, and this will have impact on the burden of borrowing that we are bearing. So we also need to watch all these from IMF, from World Bank, although some of them are soft loans. But then, by the time we aggregate and accumulate, by the time we are leaving recession, we need to pay back, and so that we will not have a continuous cycle of recession in the nearest future. So we need to watch the level of borrowing that will enable us to generate the desired value added. The commodities that are involved, some of the sectors now, look at what is happening in the feed industry as a result of maize scarcity. Look at what is happening in poultry industry as a result of supply disruptions based on the effects of COVID. So we need to rehabilitate. The money for small businesses will need to be released as promptly as possible to enable these companies to be revived quickly, because that is number one objective under the plan, in order to resuscitate and prevent the collapse of companies, of firms. So some of them that are already badly affected, they need these funds to be released as quickly as possible. Then how do we also communicate this plan? The plan must be communicated to all the beneficiaries so that people know how to access the funds. And this is an important program now that is going on to enlighten the public and to make sure that they are aware that these opportunities are available. But we need to get this across to the beneficiaries clearly. We are doing something in the rural areas. Are the rural people, are they aware of this plan? Most of the farmers are in the rural areas. How do we communicate to them that opportunities are available? The agriculture for jobs and food is an important component of the plan. And most of the beneficiaries will be rural dwellers. We must make effort to get this plan communicated to many of them to make sure that they access available funds. There is interest-free loan for them, for almost 2 million farmers to be covered. But they need to be informed. Where do they get this loan? What are the conditions? So the communication network must be streamlined so that we get these opportunities to the doorsteps of the beneficiaries across the country. If we need to also generate value added, we need to look at the youth and women employment opportunities that are being created, 774,000 jobs. But the process had been almost been affected by political imbroglio over the last 2 months. So we need to move quickly, and also that to be involved in infrastructure programs and so on. What is going to be the extent of value addition in this? We need to make sure that we have firms, business firms. In fact, about 50 billion will be going into this. And the people that we engage will be just for 3 months or so, at which time we will not be sure whether we'll have probably get over most of these problems. Where do they go from there after 3 months? So we need to look at a way by which we involve the private sector.
We'll come back to you. Let's do that for now. We'll come back to you. Now, back to the Minister of Finance. Professor Lomola has raised a lot of issues there, which I believe you heard clearly. Can we look at clearly. Beautiful, robust plan. Is it going to be matched with prompt release of funding?
The professor raised the issue of, so two major issues. One is implementation. Second is the release of funds. For the implementation, I'd just like to speak a little bit about that. This economic sustainability plan was prepared by a cross-functional committee chaired by His Excellency the Vice President. We had about 7 ministers that are heading various sectors. So the implementation responsibility is given to the ministers to set up committees, cross-functional committees within their ministries to monitor and track this. And the Economic Sustainability Committee, chaired by the Vice President, is supposed to also render periodic reports on the performance of the plan. Of course, part of the key drivers for the performance of the plan is the release of funds. And we've already, like I said earlier, on started releasing funds. We have funds that have been earmarked and packed for this. And once the plan was approved, we now called on every MDA to give us a detailed implementation roadmap. And based on that roadmap, we made an assessment of how much they will get to start off with. Then we track performance, and somewhere maybe halfway or a three-quarter way, we release more funds to them. So there is a design monitoring program for the implementation of this, and there's also a design reporting process. The release of funds is an important driver to achieve this, but you don't release funds just for the purpose of release funds. You release funds when agencies are ready to use those funds. So they must have already done their procurements. If they are going to buy items, they must have done their procurements and they need the money, then you provide it. You don't want to provide funds and it goes and sits in MDA's account, not being utilized, while some of these funds are actually borrowed funds, and you have other needs across the economy that you need to take care of. One thing that I just wanted to emphasize in the ESP is that the ESP was also designed to strengthen our social safety net as well as strengthen the healthcare system.
Okay.
In addition to all the other things that we mentioned earlier on the mass agricultural project, extensive public works, mass housing, support to MSMEs, the monetary measures that have been taken already by the central bank, the development of rural electrification, the mini grids that the SA mentioned. But I just want us to remember there's the major component of social safety net strengthening, because we are also taking care of the poor and the vulnerable, and also the importance of strengthening the healthcare system. If there is any advantage that this COVID-19 has provided to us, is an opportunity that we are now taking advantage of to improve on our healthcare infrastructure across the whole country.
Okay, if you're just joining us, the focus is an Economic Sustainability Fund. And if you can be part of the conversation tonight, our phone lines will soon be displayed on the screen. And also, you can be part of the conversation through our Twitter handle at TuesdayLive NTA. We'll begin with some reports, and we shall be going to Lagos. After Lagos, we'll take the report from Port Harcourt. Afterward, we come back, take some tweets, and sustain the conversation. Stay with us.
World economies, including Nigeria, while planning their capital and recurrent expenditure for 2020 fiscal year, never envisaged an outbreak of a novel disease that will suspend socio-economic activities for months. While this lasted, most nations were plunged into recession as some emerging markets struggled to survive. The situation also affected Africa's largest economy, Nigeria, in terms of sustaining its vibrant economic record. As a responsive government poised to revive its economy from further contraction due to the coronavirus pandemic, the federal government introduced a 2.3 trillion naira stimulus package to cushion the effect on some key sectors of the economy.
It is a good development because we know that the economy has been locked down since March, and most of the operational facilities across the various sectors of the Nigerian economy are already down. So there is need for that stimulant, there is need for that rejuvenation, there is need for what will reawaken the entire economic space.
With a breakdown which shows that 1.2 trillion naira will be sourced as structured low-cost loan as intervention from the Apex Bank as well as other institutions, and 344 billion naira from bilateral and external sources as stimulus package. The need for beneficiaries and some organized private sectors to fully implement the fund, economic analysts say, remains a panacea for further contraction.
For the private sector institution that will benefit from this, one is coming at a concessional rate of 5%. It goes with a moratorium of 1 year, which will give those borrowers the opportunity to build capacity and restore consumption.
The funds will be mainly channeled towards MSMEs across several sectors of the economy.
Our next report is coming from Port Harcourt.
The federal government recently released its economic sustainability plan, which hopes to address the economic impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. The one-year plan, which focuses on achieving mass employment and domestic production, is intended to enable the country reduce its dependency on importation and encourage homegrown innovations and products. The monetary stimulus package is also dealing with small and medium industrialists, with emphasis most affected by the pandemic and vulnerable segments of the population.
America, which is the height of industrialization today, started with small and medium scale industries. If we want to develop, this money should be pumped into these areas. Make sure you have infrastructure, particularly electricity.
Key players in the industry are of the view that a holistic approach involving members of the organized sector should be adopted by government to ensure the funds get to the appropriate quarters for optimum results.
The impact in all the sectors, healthcare, creative industry, agriculture, will be enormous, and we encourage that the government should do that very effectively.
Let the money reach to those that are supposed to get it, especially the artisans.
While the state governments, non-governmental organizations and corporate organizations have made impasse towards provision of palliatives in terms of food and medicals to vulnerable segments of the population, it is the opinion of keen observers that grants be made available to market men and women who lost their goods and fortunes as a result of closure of markets.
If you go to some of the markets that are open, most of the stalls are still locked. So it is important to deal with the market union. It's important to deal with organizations like ours, the Small and Medium Scale Association.
The people are hopeful that if the 2.3 trillion naira plan is effectively implemented, it will go a long way to revive the economy.
Yes, let's begin this segment with the SSC during Galale. You heard the crux of the matter there. MSMEs.
That's right.
And one of the persons that said, if the money reaches to those who should get it, then implementation is as good as done. So where is the place of MSMEs in all this?
Thank you very much. They're at the heart of everything. President Muhammadu Buhari is probably, I would actually say, is the first Nigerian president who truly understands that it's not oil and gas, but MSMEs that will drive the future of the Nigerian economy. The ingenuity and the great work ethic that our people are known for, not just locally, but internationally. Now, with that said, it's important to note, let's start from January this year, when President Muhammadu Buhari, before COVID-19 even hit, signed into law the finance bill, which did two major things. One, of course, it made very clear the exemptions that would now be given to MSMEs with annual profit margins of less than 25 million naira in a year. They are exempted from paying company income tax. And furthermore, for medium-scale enterprises that are dealing an annual profit of margins of between 25 million naira and 100 million naira, they saw a substantial reduction in their company income tax obligation from 30% all the way down to 20%, which is significant. Now, moving into the COVID-19 era, we all know what has happened globally and nationally. Now, the response has been just as robust as the preceding measures I've mentioned. First of all, within the Nigeria Economic Sustainability Plan, you have what we call the Survival Fund, which essentially, it's very extensive. You have one part of that really deals with MSMEs in this country that are operating in sectors that have been particularly hard hit by COVID-19. Of course, the Honorable Minister has most ably already mentioned some of those sectors being aviation, hospitality and tourism, road transport, and some others. But in specific terms, really what we're looking at is making sure that we can get that credit, like you said, directly into the hands of the people that need it. So we are going to have a scheme that will allow us to have MSMEs who are dealing in COVID-19 relief materials, things like soaps, things like production of PPEs and shoe covers, and so many different items within the COVID-19 relief kind of plethora of items, that the Nigerian MSMEs are going to be supported by government, because we are going to support about 300,000 100,000 MSMEs that are producing these goods that we will buy from them, we will patronize them, buy their goods to support well over approximately 500,000 jobs within those organizations. In addition to that, this is very critical, we're also providing a 200 billion naira fund for artisanal miners. Why? Not artisanal miners. These are artisans, rather. Artisans are critical because they are relevant to almost every sector we're talking about, whether it's construction, manufacturing, solar power production, panel production, etc., etc. So because artisans, and we have so many millions of them in this country who are highly skilled, who just need a bit of support, they are going to be able to access zero interest credit facilities through fintech companies that we've designated, and through micro credit financial institutions who will get the funds directly into their accounts. And for those who do not have registered accounts, we will help them, assist them to create those accounts so that they can have access to those resources to not just support themselves, but to ensure that they can also support those who are relying on their businesses. And the last point I'll make is a very critical payroll support program. Payroll support program. So what we're going to do is we're going to provide grants, in effect, to road transport workers and others that have been really, really hard hit with grants that, of course, a grant being that they don't have to pay it back, to ensure that they're able to stay afloat in this very difficult time in view of the lockdowns that have occurred across the country. And of course, that also involves companies. We are going to establish a handshake between the Corporate Affairs Commission, the CAC, and several MSMEs across the country, where they are going to, in effect, be able to gain access to, I'm talking of unregistered MSMEs that need to get registered and all of that and formalize their operations so that they can have access to the MSME support to keep hundreds of thousands of jobs open within those MSMEs. So it's really very, very robust, and we've turned pretty much every stone to ensure that every aspect of the MSMEs across the country, across sectors, are being directly impacted by the scarce resources available to the nation through the Nigeria Economic Sustainability Plan.
Before we go to Kaduna, let me just ask this. Mm-hmm. We have often had this complaint of lopsidedness. Have there been a plan to ensure that there's a spread across the country to avoid lopsidedness?
This is an area where I think President Muhammadu Buhari has never gotten the credit he truly deserves. If you look across the board at the policies and plans and programs of this administration, consistently, the president does not play at all about the issues of equity, of distribution of jobs and benefits. And this plan makes that very clear. If you look at the Special Public Works Program, where you have 774,000 young people being recruited recruited to construct roads so with Nigerian-sourced bitumen, for example. Obviously, that is 1,000 from every local government area of the Federation. Total equity. If you look at what's happening with the agricultural program, which I mentioned, 20 to 100,000 hectares of land from every state of the Federation covering localities. If you look at the housing program that the Honorable Minister ably mentioned as well, you're looking at, for approximately 300,000 houses all across this country spread by local government, meaning approximately 400 houses per local government of the area of the Federation, to ensure that the artisans, the carpenters, and all of the suppliers of the various items, from nails to locks to glass to cement, all of that everybody is having an equal share of the opportunities within this plan. If you go even to the solar panel system, the solar home system, where we are producing 5 million solar home systems over the next year within this plan, you're also looking at a spread across all states of the Federation. So really, whether it's MSME support, whether it's the expansion, as the Honorable Minister mentioned, of the social investment programs to add 1 million new households, approximately up to 15 million Nigerians now on the National Social Register, it's all about spread, it's all about equity, it's all about making sure that every Nigerian has a sense of belonging, because the President understands that he's the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, and he's going to make sure every citizen feels the impact of his presidency.
It's okay. Let's go to Kaduna. Professor Angu, key to this is data. If there's data on ground, it will help. And also, are you concerned about the gestation period? 12 months. Can we achieve all this within 12 months?
Data is important, and like just the SSA finished saying, the data, for example, for the low-income earners, I just read somewhere, is approaching about 15 million or thereabout, which means they are gathering the data. Now, I'm concerned about implementation, certainly. I'm worried that, for example, and as important as the agricultural sector is, and this government has particularly given so much attention to agriculture, and we have succeeded in this country sincerely as far as agriculture is concerned, to the extent that we have had border closure for some time. We have also had, at the same time, we have had this last lockdown that we experienced. Despite all that, reasonably we have been able to survive. We don't have much challenge in terms of foodstuffs or availability of food. However, I'm concerned that this program came during in the middle of the season, that is the farming season. Now, of course, since it's a one-year program, I hope it will continue during the dry season and up to the next wet season that will start maybe around May or June next year. So to that extent, quite a number of the agricultural initiatives may not see light of the day until probably the next season. But that does not matter. But I'm worried also at the same time on the housing, for example. We're talking about 300, the largest such program ever envisaged, 400 houses per local government, and we have to find the space, the location. We have to finish this thing within 1 year. What I see is that though the plan has been scheduled to be a 1-year plan, it was also said to be a bridge between the ERGP and the next development plan. I have a feeling some of these things will probably flow into the next year. Not all of them may be finished within 1 year. It's quite a lot of programs. I like the fact that the respective, every assignment has been assigned to particular MDAs and to particular individuals, the ministers and whoever concerned. But despite that, I'm worried, I'm concerned that probably not all of what has been planned can be implemented within 1 year. I doubt if that can be achieved. But I want to see at least let's start the implementation, let's move on. And like the Honorable Minister said, you don't release money, you will not just release money for the sake of releasing money, you'll only release money when the programs are ready, the procurement has been done, that is when they will release money. So I want to see everybody, serious about it, and let's see the implementation. But I doubt if 1 year will be enough to implement all of these programs.
Okay, Professor Olomola, please, we'll come to you. Let me address some tweets targeted at the Minister of Finance. As soon as she addresses them, I'll come to you. Please just give us some time. To the Minister, a couple of tweets have come. Some corroborated what you said, but one or two will require response. Let me begin from the last one, coming from Toby. It says, I like the way the Minister of Finance put it. Don't release funds anyhow. There are millions of jobless Nigerians out there. Don't allow some set of people take advantage of this plan to divert public funds. That's the reaction. The next one coming from David Umar. It says, the economic sustainability plan should be geared towards job creation and to encourage the small and medium-scale businesses. Let's make Nigeria a self-sufficient and productive country. That's the contribution. The next one says, it's coming from Wiyep. How well prepared is the typical Nigerian household for the coming shock of lost job and income, low unemployment, coupled with weak wage growth and rising income inequality? Which sectors of the economy are likely to recover the fastest, which could be the slowest? God bless Nigeria. And the last on this segment, it says, talking about economic sustainability, why is the government not buying up farm produce from the farmers for preservation as we did during the cocoa boom era, and so forestall post-harvest losses? Such would even help stabilize food prices and security. Let me allow you to react, Ma.
Quite a number of interesting tweets that have been sent, but I just want to re-emphasize the point that has been made by Professor Ango on the issue of the timing of the plan. This plan is designed for 12 months, but it was designed to be a bridge between the ERGP that expires in 2020 and the new National Development Plan that we're working on now. So the new National Development Plan is taking along and this ESP plan, and he's right. We will not be able to complete 300,000 houses within this 12 months period. We're in the process of acquiring lands, making designs, and several other things that are associated with starting mass housing. And then the agricultural program also is not going to be finishing in 12 months. It will continue. So it is wet season now. It will spill into the dry season. Minister of Agriculture has reported that he has already registered, and he has a database of 5 million farmers. 2 million of those registered have been submitted to the CBN, and the CBN is doing its process of releasing this soft loans to these farmers. So yes, it's not going to finish at the end of month 12. It will dovetail into the new development plan. On the releases of funds, we did all agree that we must make sure funds are provided when they're needed, because the funds are scarce and we don't want funds to be tied down, sitting in some bank accounts and not being utilized when there are needs everywhere else. And we're making sure that that is what is done. The ESP has been designed to create jobs. If you see the last unemployment numbers released by the National Bureau of Statistics, the unemployment numbers have been growing. So there are more people that have lost their jobs because of the slowdown in the growth of the economy, because a lot of small businesses had to close down at some point. So we're trying to create jobs at a very, very large scale. And the jobs are rudimentary jobs. So they are not white-collar jobs. They're not office jobs. Yes, there's some digitalization and there's some digital economy focus, but we're trying to create jobs so that people can actually use their hands to do productive activities. And which sectors will recover first? Mostly, in most times when the country goes into a slowdown, you find that the agricultural sector rebounds more quickly, and because more people are involved in agriculture, while the services sector is slower in catching up. But the good story we have this time is that even though the second quarter growth was negative, The services sector, that is the financial services and the telecom services, did not decline. In fact, they grew, which is not unexpected because everything now became, every meeting became virtual. People were now moving around. So telecommunication services was the main anchor for most of our activities. So we saw a great improvement in the telecom sector as well as in the financial services sector.
Okay, let's go to Professor Olomola, then I come back to Ajuri for some other response before we take our first break. Professor Olomola, reacting from your end, taking through this tweet, it says, I hope the government would try to start thinking more on long-term planning by investing more for the country than spending much on consumption. How do you react to this?
Thank you very much. I think both will need to be looked into. This economic sustainability plan is a short-term plan. Then we have a medium-term plan. Then we have even the fairly long plan that is being crafted now. And the 2021 to say 2025 or so is a medium term. So that has already been taken care of. When you have a set of medium term like this, then you have to start annually through the budget, which is the annual plan, to implement. So that is already being positioned. But the important thing is the executive capacity to implement the plan. Money had to go out as quickly as possible, and that is why it's called stimulus. To stimulate what? To stimulate economic activities. Production, consumption must be stimulated before we achieve the desirable level of growth, or we reduce the negative growth that we are having, so that at the end of the fourth quarter, we could be over. So it is important that the executive capacity is strengthened in the MDAs, such that no MDA that will not provide appropriate guidelines for implementation will cause delay. Actually, in terms of the activities, is a very ambitious plan. It's supposed to be a bridge fine, but the activities are so overwhelming, and that unless proper technical implementation guidelines are established at the level of MDA, it will even be very difficult to monitor. There is a monitoring framework at the highest level of authority in terms of administrative and governance system of monitoring. But at the technical level of implementation, what are the milestones quarterly? When do we expect certain things to be done? When do we expect seeds to be produced? When do we expect fertilizer to be distributed? Guidelines. If you don't have these guidelines at the level of MDA, look at housing. How do we go into the construction of housing? Housing finance. How will these houses be affordable to the masses of the rural people that also need housing? How will the private sector be involved? We need to articulate this and put time on them on a quarterly basis or periodically, so that we can see what we monitor and the milestones achieved before the end of the year. As it stands, if you don't have these guidelines, some MDAs in 6 months, they will not have finished their procurement, and the money will not be out, and at the end of the day, will not probably achieve the results at the level that we expect. So it is important. We have the short term, we have a medium term, we even have a longer term plans. But we will see how one dovetails to the other, because if we have this 1 year, for example, and mark you, each time one should also do budget, we have middle-term expenditure that takes 3 years, and then see how projects that are not completed in the first year will go into the second year. So the budget process must also recognize this, such that whatever we cannot finish at the end of 12 months will not just be jettisoned. There will be accommodation through the MTF, so that the second year, which will be the very first year of the next plan that is being crafted now, can recognize these programs that are on ground, so that they're not just dismissed or jettisoned or abandoned as we usually experience in the country. So if this one is now properly linked to the very first plan, provision made during the budget of 2021, then it will capture the surplus activities that cannot be completed during this ESP.
When we come back from the first break, we shall go to the nitty-gritty. One of it has to do with achieving the timelines and milestones, and also the strategy of communication to reach those who should benefit. Just after the break, stay with us.
For now, the best and most efficient way to avoid getting infected is through regular hygienic and sanitary practices, as well as social distancing. As individuals, we remain the greatest weapon to fight this pandemic. By washing our hands regularly with clean water and soap, disinfecting frequently used surfaces and areas, coughing into a tissue or elbow, and strictly adhering to infection prevention control measures in health facilities, we can contain this virus.
Coronavirus is real. Steps to avoid this pandemic. Wash your hands regularly or sanitize your hands. Keep social and physical distancing. Avoid crowded places. Stay at home unless absolutely necessary. Don't touch your eyes, nose, or mouth if your hands are not clean. Avoid the spread of coronavirus. Coronavirus is real.
NTA Tuesday Live, a network issue-oriented innovation talk show.
Thanks for staying tuned. And before we take our next batch of reports, let's go to the next issues. One of the key components besides local content housing is gas. Before we touch on gas, Professor Olumola touched on communication strategy. How do you link up this?
Thank you very much. First of all, I think communication is very critical to any government policy and the implementation of any government policy. That's something that certainly is prioritized by President Muhammadu Buhari and his administration. That's why we have avenues like this one to ensure that we're not just simply pouring out information on people's heads, but that we're also allowing them an opportunity to contribute, to ask questions, to press us on the implementation, making sure that all I's are dotted and all T's are crossed. So I think that the establishment of that national dialogue where our people are part and parcel of the implementation process is very critical. That's why we're on radio almost every day across the country, making sure that we have these dialogue-based engagement type of programs and all of that. So communication is very central, not just to this set of programs, but to the administration at large. Let me also say that in terms of gas, you're very correct in saying that it's absolutely strategic. Yeah. The president has made very clear that it is really pivotal to his vision for the future of the Nigerian economy that we use the resources provided by the oil sector today to diversify very aggressively into gas. Why? Because we know that gas has a limitless future. It's not time-bound. We know that even when oil is not the commodity it is on the international market, gas will continue to be powering industries and homes from the Americas to the Europeans to the Asians and all of that. So now, within this plan, you have two major segments of what we're calling the Nigeria Gas Expansion Program, NGEP. One is LPG-based predominantly, one is CNG-based. Each program within the NESP, the LPG program is 1 million jobs, and the CNG program is 1 million jobs. We want to, in effect, within this year, and then of course sustainably even beyond this year, as this economic sustainability plan really handshakes with the next plan that is 2021 to 2025 that's being developed, is within LPG, we have an opportunity to create 1 million jobs by supporting the manufacturing, the production of between 5 and 10 million LPG cooking cylinders to deepen penetration, to ensure that we can support the replacement of dirty fuels like coal, like kerosene, like diesel, with cleaner gas forms over the next few years. 30 million households, predominantly rural, is what we're focused on in terms of that conversion process into the widespread use of LPGs across the country. We're starting that with 12 pilot states across geopolitical zones of the country, and then of course we're going to leg up on top of that. Now, CNG is a very exciting prospect for us as an administration. Certainly the president is keenly interested in what happens here, because at a time in our nation's history when we have liberalized the downstream petroleum sector, and we know that PMS is now predominantly dictated, of course, by international oil price, market forces, and all of that, that we give our people a strategic, competitive, and affordable and efficient alternative. That is compressed natural gas, CNG. What we're going to do is we're going to incentivize the boosting, if you will, of domestic production with marginal field operators and others to really strategically reduce the amount of LNG that we're having to import. We're using our forex to import some of these products. We want to reduce that. We want to replace that with local production. So we're going to incentivize that production. That's part of the gas flare commercialization program. Then now, this is very important. For those who are using cars across this country, which is most of us, if we're not using cars, we're at least entering cars or Okada, one way or another, we're using automobile technology. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to establish, working with the private sector, CNG conversion plants, facilities, where you can take a car, whether it's a new car, whether it's a Tukumbo, whether it's Okada, you can take it there, convert your car from PMS dependent to CNG compliant, because CNG is well known to be a fuel that is up to 50% cheaper than PMS per fill-up. And that is very, very important at a time when we need to bring that alternative, kind of competitive fuel source, not just for our people, but to bring down the cost of production at large for the development of the economy. And the last point I'll make very quickly is that as you move into CNG, it's not just a matter of ensuring that you're, having these CNG conversion points. It's also about ensuring that the supply is there. So we're going to be working with marketers like the NNPC to have CNG fill-up points in filling stations across the country, so that once you are CNG compliant, you're able to find CNG very accessibly all across the country. And all of this is going to boost the domestic use of Nigerian gas to maximize its impact on the Nigerian economy.
Okay. Quickly, before we take the next batch of reports, I would love the minister to react to 3 key things quickly before we take the next batch of reports. The concern about timelines and milestones within this project, and where is the domiciliary in terms of the participation by states? How visible will they be? How do we see them? For instance, like Professor Olomola talked about the issue of communication. Where would the people at the state level locate where to start and know what to do at a particular time?
Thank you very much. Let me say that earlier on I had spoken about the issue of implementation plans, and that each sector NDA.
Sorry, we'll come back to the minister. The audio is bad. I thought we fix it up after the report. We'll come back to you, madam. Please bear with us. Now we'll take the report from Jigawa State.
Records by the National Bureau of Statistics indicate that agriculture contributed 21.96% to Nigeria's GDP in the first quarter of the year 2020, occasioned by the severe impact of COVID-19. The federal government's 2.3 trillion naira stimulus plan to support the economy comes as a welcome development among critical stakeholders in the agricultural sector in Jigawa State, which provides about 90% employment to the citizens. The challenge here is that a larger percentage of the farmers engage in small-scale crop and livestock production, characterized by a very weak value chain management.
It also leverages on, it does not restrict the farmer to 1 hectare. So a farmer can have 6, 10, 15 hectares, depending on where it's. Like here in Jigawa, our area of advantage is rice. We have some farmers who have about 6 hectares, 8 hectares. Such hectares cannot be anchored by agro growers. So they need a larger input supplier, which this intervention is going to address.
What we are after, or what we request most is, the government should provide essential inputs that is required for agricultural development.
Moreover, a reliable farmers database compiled by the government and reputable indigenous non-governmental organizations working closely with the farming clusters gives Jigawa a leverage over other states in the smooth implementation of the policy in the face of the coronavirus pandemic. Some of the farmers describe the intervention as timely.
Coronavirus has really disrupted farming activities. Anyway, we are happy that the federal government is coming to salvage the sector. We are glad with government effort in providing fertilizer and other inputs.
With a vast fertile arable land suitable for the production of rice, sorghum, soybean and maize, among other tropical crops for domestic consumption and export, farmers in Jigawa State appear willing and ready to key into the government's initiative and give their contributions to fast-track national development.
Our next stop is Oka.
The Central Bank of Nigeria Incentive Risk Sharing System for Agricultural Lending (NESRA) Microfinance Bank introduced 500 billion naira targeted credit facility as a stimulus package to support households and small and medium enterprises affected by COVID-19 pandemic lockdown across the country, including Anambra State, with many benefiting.
Anambra State, because we are a state of entrepreneurs, we should make use of it.
Royal Saints International School, Oka, is one of the schools affected by COVID-19 pandemic. Since March, it has remained shut. Luckily for the school, it is one of the beneficiaries of the CBN stimulus package. And here with me is the proprietor of the school.
I got the information online through one of the groups, and then I applied from my bedroom using my mobile phone. At the end of the application, just after about a month and 2 weeks, I got a call. My loan had been approved.
Ubu said he faced financial challenges and fear of his business survival before 1.6 million naira intervention came from the facility, adding it has enabled him procure more computers, projector machines and IT compliant personnel to help him meet up with the demand of e-learning processes now adopted by schools. He expressed gratitude to federal government for bringing succor to the people and businesses at a time it mattered most. He advised Nigerians to key into the CBN's facility made available to provide cash flow disrupted by the lockdown occasioned by the pandemic.
Our last report for tonight is coming from Kebbi.
Kebbi State has recorded successes in various agricultural commodity value chains, especially rice. This followed presidential inauguration of the Uncle Barrows program and various incentives from public and private sector players, which enhanced farmers' productivity over the years. The feat facilitated increase in the processing and packaging of such commodities, which resulted into the establishment of a number of factories in the state. The Economic Stimulus Fund will therefore facilitate optimal utilization of this drive for employment generation and wealth creation.
It will encourage more people into farming. Kebbi, in particular, has been in the limelight for agricultural revolution.
I hope Kebbi State being the forefront in the agricultural sector and economy to now, will our farmers and the state government and all the stakeholders will take advantage of this, initiative by the federal government.
Farmers are therefore expected to produce more, while processors and marketers are expected to exploit the availability of these commodities in running and expanding their industries.
We want to move to value addition because that is the target the Kebbi State government has for now. We all know we can make oil, make biscuits, so many other byproducts from rice that we do produce. The wheat, we have several hectares of land that we also grow a lot of wheat in the state. So there are so many areas that such funds can be utilized.
Given the experience, the right mindset of farmers and the investors' interest, the stimulus according to the stakeholders is expected to consolidate Nigeria's gains in the agricultural sector.
That's our last report for tonight, and I believe the audio from the end of the Minister of Finance is okay now. Let's go back to her for a response.
Well, I hope you can hear me now. The issues that you raised are to do one with timelines and milestones and
well, the audio is still a challenge. I believe they fix it through, and I will come to you. Please just bear with us. And let me quickly go to Professor Ango. Professor Ango, yes, relatedly, let's look at it from the point of implementation again. States and the federal, harmony. If there's no harmony, what happens? If there's harmony, what happens?
At least in terms of expectation, the committee chaired by His Excellency, the Vice President, had carried along the governors, as stated earlier, and as stated also on the plan. So in terms of that, that is expected. However, we have seen before where the federal government tried or attempted to bring in the states, and some of them refused to cooperate with regards to the cattle Ruga system. That is a system whereby instead of the cattle farmers are allowed to roam around, they are kept in certain locations called Ruga. So that was actually the government tried to get the buy-in of all the state governments, and some of them refused. Now, in this regard, so far, we have not received any resistance. We have not heard of any resistance. So we expect and we hope that the state governments will cooperate with the federal government in this regard so as not to miss out. And I'm sure if any state government should refuse to cooperate, that state will just actually miss out, because that means the project will be implemented in states that cooperate. We have seen this, like for example, in the housing program, during the 1979 to 1983 era. It was a major policy of the then government of MPN to build houses, across the states. But then some states refused to give out lands. So if that should happen with any state, I believe the government will continue with those states that cooperate. We hope, in this case, that the states will cooperate with the federal government. So at least steps have been taken to bring it, to buy their, to have their buy-in, for this particular project. So we hope it happens. If it doesn't happen, I hope government will continue with those states that are ready and able to cooperate, so that we move on.
Can you also, still on you, Professor Ango, can you also speak to political maneuvering? How do we stem this?
It's a difficult one. We have seen it also with regards to the 774,000 jobs. Government have tried, this particular government have tried when they came in. At least we have seen in some of their policies, like for example, the N-Power, where you don't have to know anybody, you apply and you get employed under the scheme. They have done that quite a lot. We have seen in one of the reports, one of the proprietors of a school, saying that actually he saw something on social media, he applied and he was told that his facility has been approved. So in that regard, federal government has already shown the goodwill. They have shown utmost good faith. They have shown that they are serious about this thing. So there is no problem with that. But however, there is going to be challenge, politically in two ways. One, it could be across parties, or it might be even within the same parties. We have seen what happened with the national legislature when they were trying to hijack some of the one of the programs because why they are under pressure from their constituents, each one of them pushing him or her to get jobs for them. I believe that is why possibly they are under so much pressure. But I hope, given the scheme and the implementation that agenda that has been put in place, that will avoid or will try as much as possible to avoid the political issues and face the problems squarely and implement it so that our economy will be better for it.
Okay, let's try our luck again with the minister. We just hope the audio is through now. All right, Minister, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you very clearly.
Okay. But let me start with, let me take some tweets so I can maybe react to them. We are so sorry for the audio challenges tonight. It's coming from Buba Yaza. I'm told by the engineers it's actually a network challenge, not from us here. I'm a Beneseed and sunflower farmer, and it is capital intensive. Insecurities in Kaduna denied us farming, having invested heavily on it, just to find out that the farm cannot be accessible. For me to come on board, I need 3 million naira, but possibility of such may be difficult with such a development. The next one says, Honorable Minister, how do the government intend to carry out this plan without partnership from the private sector? And how do the various agencies intend to reach out to the less privileged and the masses at large to revamp the economy? And the last one says, it's coming from Ugochukwu, economic sustainability plan by the federal government of Nigeria is a very fine initiative to revive the Nigerian economy that have to be hit by the COVID-19 pandemic. But my question is, what measures are put in place to control prices of essential commodities that affect directly an average Nigerian citizen? Let's hear you, ma.
Well, thank you very much. Let me start with the point that has been raised. It is true in our state of Kaduna, insecurity has affected quite a number of farmers and hindered their ability to farm their land. And he said that how can he need 3 million? What you need to do is to apply, just like was shown in the message in Anambra State. We just apply online to one of the CBN intervention programs. Will be a loan, low-cost loan in some cases. If your business is agri, it will even be an interest-free loan, and then you can now restore your business. On partnership with the private sector, the ERGP, the Economic Sustainability Plan, is hinged around the lines of the philosophy of partnering with the private sector. So some of the major projects, like especially the mass housing project, is meant to be fully undertaken by the private sector. So in the mass housing project, you have a program where you have about 300,000 houses who will be engaging young professionals, form themselves into companies. They'll be given like up to between 10 to 5 to 50 houses to build. Within the estates where the houses are going to be built, there'll be activities within the same estates to provide inputs for the building of the houses. All of this is going to be done by the private sector. The project managers will be private sector participants. The financial institutions that provide funding for the program are also private sector institutions. And also there will be the off-take end, that is the mortgage end, where when the houses are completed, there's design mortgages. These mortgages are primary mortgage institutions. Those are also private sector owned. So the role of this plan, apart from the one that is just designed to keep people in jobs and the excitement, like social investment program, the private sector to use these activities.
Okay, let's go to Professor Olomola. Professor Olomola, how do you amplify from the minister's angle?
Come again, please.
Angle. Okay, Professor Olomola, if you can hear me, I just said, from what the minister just said, how do you amplify from here?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I got your point. I think we should begin to look at some factors that will enable us to achieve our goals under this plan. I think generally the economic impact of our plans have been overburdened by the weight of politics. And one thing that we need to consider in this plan is the kind of reform that we require in terms of remuneration of political office holders. This plan places emphasis on reducing expenditure on non-essential services. And there are two reforms that we should focus on right away if we are to achieve this. The first one is to look at the Oronsai report that the government has promised that is going to implement and to expedite action in fine-tuning and streamlining some of the recommendations that have been taken by event, so that quickly we can have a streamlined bureaucracy and the overlapping responsibilities across the MDAs that are supposed to implement this plan will be looked into. And in terms of governance sides and remuneration of public officers, we want to see that productivity is improved, value addition is improved, and then we have to remunerate those who are contributing to this growth according to the value of their productivity, according to the value of their marginal productivity. But if you look at the political system, if you look at the size of the budget that is going to service political office holders, that is why we are not making any headway in terms of economic growth. Political weight is placed on employment opportunities to ensure that we do not have competent hands to even do the job. And if we don't have competent hands, we cannot generate the desired level of productivity. And if you look at proliferation of agencies that we need to even try to streamline now, since 1999, the National Assembly has supported establishment of various agencies. And to the extent that servicing them becomes a problem and a burden on our budget, such that over 70% of our national budget is devoted to servicing recurrent expenditure and overheads. So we need to look into this area if we're talking about non-essential service expenditure that we need to reduce. I mean, how is this remuneration arrived at? If we're doing reform, we're in recession, why should some sector of the economy be receiving fabulous amount when some people cannot eat 2 square meals or 3 square meals in a day? This is a lopsided method of remuneration that we need to look into. Everything we do in terms of implementation, you need people to do some work. It is through political connection. They may not have the desired level of capacity, and executive capacity to implement, therefore becomes a problem. And if you look at proliferation of institutions, look at the number of educational institutions that have been established in the last 10 years. To the extent that people who come out from these institutions cannot contribute to the growth of the economy. And this is the connection between sectors. Look at, this plan places also emphasis on education. But when the resources are so thinly spread across a lot of educational institutions that are established through political weight rather than the economic needs and the way to really support growth in the economy, it becomes a problem. And so we will not have the desired funds to really generate the productivity that we want, which is a major objective of this plan. I think we need to look into this as we move on. In terms of communication, what is the role of NOA? We need to make sure that agencies of government that are supposed to propagate the policy of government and plan should go down the line. They are in every state of this country, both rural and urban. What is it that has been articulated for them to really propagate in this ESP? We need to identify them. In terms of the agricultural sector, the extension system in agriculture that is supposed to be strengthened so that they can inform the rural dwellers, the farmers that we say are going to be connected with jobs and food and so on. Some of them don't have the information. And some of them don't have the knowledge to produce what will really give us the kind of food that we need. Under this pandemic, in the last 3 months, the situation of food security needs really to be looked into. And unless we strengthen these farmers and we give them the right information and we revive our extension system, we will not be able to really achieve the desired level of expansion, no matter the acreage of land or hectareage of land that we expand. If what we will need to cultivate the land is so antiquated, the labor that in fact, this pandemic will not even allow people to go and really work on the farm. We need to get some technology, some machines, some planters, harvesters that women and youth can use on the farm to make life easy for them. This should really form part of the equipment. We have to spend some of this money. We have 364 billion under this plan for the agriculture for jobs and food program. Part of this should be used to get modern equipment. And by the time you use Nigerian companies that are fabricating and producing small and suitable, adaptable equipment to mechanize our agriculture, then we improve productivity. Then we can also boost production to the extent that we can even export, so that we unlink from the oil sector and really diversify in the true sense of it our economic base, so that we can create jobs, we can feed our country, we can grow economy, and then we can quickly jump out of this recession.
I'll come back to you for that perspective. Well, Prof raised serious concerns, the wastages in government, proliferation of agencies. How do you react to this?
Well, first of all, there's no doubt that there's absolute truth to the professor's comments as it relates to, the high rate of recurrent expenditure and obviously expenditure on, political office holders in particular. The issues are known, obviously, at the highest levels of government in this country. The challenge has always been the sustainable solution to that challenge has to do with constitutional amendment. So, for example, much of the complaint around this issue generally tends to be targeted at the National Assembly. That's usually where people target their ire in this regard, saying that why do we need a House of Representatives and a Senate? Maybe we only need one chamber, and all of that and all of that. The challenge is when you're looking at how you're going to make some of these changes, it requires a constitutional amendment that involves the input and approval of some of the very public office holders who are currently engaged by these institutions. That makes it quite tricky. What you can do in the interim, because we have to be realistic about what the challenges are and what is immediately achievable and then what is maybe more of a long-term goal, is how do we cut down on government wastage? President Muhammadu Buhari has already authorized the implementation of the Al-Ransaya report, rationalizing government ministries, departments, and agencies. That's a major step in the right direction, one which took the political courage and integrity of the president to be able to push forward. In addition to that, the president had also ordered a review of all salaries of all public office holders in the country to see where we can create savings. And the president has led by example. You'll recall that as soon as Mr. President took office, and of course His Excellency the Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, took office, they slashed their own salaries voluntarily without any public pressure or anybody asking them, because they wanted to set a standard for all public office holders to follow. Now, with that said, wastage is something that has to be dealt with in those two phases, immediate term and long term. Now, the issue of how we prioritize our spending, because he touched on that. Everybody wants to have a budget that is 80% capital and 20% recurrent, for example. Some states come out and they boast and say, look at our budget. We're doing 70% capital, 30% recurrent. What those states will not tell you, compared to the federal government, is that the states are not employing the armed forces. They're not employing the Navy, the Army, and of course, the Air Force, the Nigerian police force, the federal civil service, and the list goes on. Teachers, doctors, etc. The federal government is employing all of these very critical members of the public service. Now, in addition to that, you're also looking at how you can reshape that trajectory from recurrent to capital, given the scarcity of resources. So what has President Muhammadu Buhari's administration done? Very diligently over the course of the last 5 years. We went from a situation where in 2015, after 55 years of independence, the best we could do was 13 million Nigerian taxpayers. 13 million taxpayers. The president, in just 5 years, has been able to almost triple that number with about 35 million taxpayers just a few years later. This is how you create sustainable revenue generation that will eventually wean you out of a situation where you have to borrow to fund your budgets. But even with that, the focus on capital expenditure, I want to get to the point he made about agricultural mechanization.
Quickly.
Yes, absolutely. Okay. Is that those funds have to be targeted. We have seen an unprecedented level of budget implementation this year. Why? Some people have said, oh, well, look at the Economic and Recovery and Growth Plan, ERGP, that they said there are some inadequacies in terms of implementation. I often remind people when we're just having private conversations, I'm just saying it on television today, that when we were implementing the Economic Recovery and Growth Plan, we were dealing with an 8th National Assembly, whose, some of the politicians in which decided that it was within their narrow political interest to deliberately defund certain critical infrastructure and social investment capital expenditures in order to hinder the president's re-election prospects. My point is that within the Economic Sustainability Plan, we're working with a 9th Assembly that has proven through deeds with the regularization of the budget calendar from January to December, with the Deep Offshore Amendment, with the Finance Bill enactment, with the Comma Amendment enactment, all of these various measures that have been put in place in a very short period of time, that they're ready to do what is right in the interest of the country and not in the interest of a few individuals. And our people should expect that the Petroleum Industry Bill will be soon to follow.
Okay, let's go back to the minister. We just hope the audio has stabilized now. Honourable Minister, before I throw my question to you, let me allow you to react to this tweet coming from Kisto for Real. It says, my question is related to the housing development. It is obvious that the private sector are profit-driven. When plan is in place to make sure masses are not left out of the mercy of the private developers, that is making good and truly affordable houses affordable. How do you react to it before we go to that segment with you?
Well, you can't eat your cake and have it. You can't want to revive the economy and not give the private sector to work with government. Simply put, government is not in a position to use directly about to build 300,000 houses. What we've done is to design the program such that these houses are built by small businesses, youth, young people that have formed themselves into small businesses. They're giving these houses to and also projects. So the benefit is beyond the cost. We are also doing providing some standards. So the states are contributing the land, so that reduces the cost. We are also providing low-cost financing to the developers, so that reduces the cost. The input that produced on the land itself, that reduces the cost. We have standard designs that reduces. So we're doing it, and therefore lower cost, and that even though the cost is low, that the standard will still be a good standard for Nigerians to live in.
Well, Honourable Minister, we'll come back to you. We'll come back to you, but we are trying to resolve the audio challenge here. We'll come back to you so that is done. Let me go to Professor Ango. Professor Ango, as much as we don't have much of the time to go, could you please quickly react to that last tweet to amplify what the minister said, please?
The minister, what she said basically, which I agree with, is that they are involving the private sector. There is a lot of cost saving in the sense that the land is provided by the state, There is a common design. The loan that will be given will be of low interest rate and all that. Now, having said this, I believe what is important, because what we are trying to do is to stimulate the economy. Now, in stimulating the economy, what is important is that jobs will be available at the grassroots level. We are taking out 400 houses in each local government to be developed by artisans that are from there. Somebody who will provide, people who will provide the blocks, the cement, the sand and everything. The masons will be from there. So it's going to encourage and develop the local economies of these sectors. And that is what matters. What we are trying to see and what I hope, and I believe that is the intention, and that is what is happening, is that at the end of it all, we will stimulate the economy to the extent that we are buying, we are patronizing, we are encouraging in every sense possible products made in Nigeria and services and provided by Nigerians. And I hope if we continue in this spirit, then the economy will be stimulated, there will be growth in the economy, and then we move on. And I'm also hoping that there will be, like I said earlier, the ESP whatever will come after the economic sustainability plan will borrow from it and continue to patronize Nigerian products. The medium-term plan that will come up should continue to patronize, encourage patronage of Nigerian products, so that whatever we can produce, we use. Whatever we have, we don't import, so that we don't provide jobs for other economies, as it is.
Okay, let's go to Professor Olomola. Professor Olomola, key to this is the end result. If it is followed faithfully, consistently, let's look at where we'll be in terms of local content and maybe return on investment, maybe in the next 2 years.
Very much. We need to pay attention to this. Local content, is a policy of government recently in the last 2 weeks that has been emphasized in terms of whatever investment that is coming to the country, the local content should be emphasized. This will boost employment, improve capacity in various sectors, so that we can also improve productivity and then talk about economic growth. So this is very important. But one thing that is critical to the achievement of this is the need for political sustainability plan. The political system we have will not allow returns to investment to be realized. Never. For example, we are going to have national infrastructure program that's going to be implemented by the federal government. Then we have what we call constituency project. Yet, despite these several years we have constituency projects, infrastructure to the areas where investments will be located are really absent. So you can see the lopsided where the money is going. We are not seeing the impact of the money that is being spent. When you have a budget, you have infrastructure facilities or projects or investments. You have some being implemented by politicians one way or the other, saying it's constituency project. And over the last 10 years, we cannot see road to where industries are supposed to be located. You cannot see water supply to where firms, medium-scale firms, are supposed to be established. So these are obstacles. There must be a political sustainability plan, which we should put in place, which will streamline clearly the responsibilities of each tier of government and who should implement what. And also, if we are looking at this plan, we have procurement. We have procurement system that we have experts to work on so that quickly projects can be quickly developed, investments can be quickly developed, action plans can be quickly taken. You need expert hands to do this. And we should not allow the money, when the money goes, investment cannot be planned, cannot be fully developed before the end of the cycle of the project, then where are we going to get the impact? So we need to look into this and streamline. And this is where technical monitoring is important. There's monitoring in terms of intergovernmental relationships, which is required. For example, land. You want 300,000 hectares of land in this country. The states must have commitment, and they must be carried along. And if they don't, we will not be able to realize all we say in terms of employment, in terms of food security, in terms of expansion in agricultural production, in terms of import substitution, which is a major policy of government, in terms of diversifying the economy. So land is very important. And the states are the custodian of this land we want to use. So there must be support by all state governments. The Governors Forum must come together, depoliticize this plan, and make land available as an economic factor that we need to consider so that we can, even investment will not take place in the air. It's going to be on land. Most of this will be on land. And the governors are in charge. So that support really must be obtained, must be secured. There must be synergy and cooperation in our federation and federalism so that we can achieve economic growth. This is very important. There must be political sustainability plan. And in the next 3 or 4 years, I will expect another election. If we don't have political sustainability plan, we will not grow and we will not achieve all our targets, even of the plan. In terms of what goes, what is the cost of governance, what is the clear responsibility of each tier of government, so that we can move. The procurement system also needs reform, so that we can easily, some departments cannot finish preparing their programs before the whole budget year runs out. And each year, until very recently, 2 years ago, that we come to the January-December budget calendar and cycle, every year we have to postpone. We have to have 18 months that makes our budget here in Nigeria until this administration has corrected that. We must make sure we don't plunge back to that, so that these 12 months we have specified for this plan is actually 12 months. The milestones specifically really defined, well-defined, technically defined, the expenditure defined, and the investment preparation, the procurement and all these things we need to do. If we need to get private sector involved to help the MDAs to prepare this, we should get them. We should get them. And this is where we talk about even productivity of the people who are to implement the plan. What is the level of productivity? What is the capacity in those MDAs to enable them to generate the desired skill that will enable them to prepare this on time? If MDA spends 6 months preparing budgets, preparing programs, preparing investments, when will the investors come and really get something on the ground? These are things that government needs to look at so that we can achieve the desired objectives of this ESP.
We'll come back to you for conclusion. Now, Prof has raised a couple of issues, and we just hope that before the end of the program, the signal strength with the Minister of Finance will be restored. Well, it's just beyond our control here. Yeah. How do you respond to that quickly?
Well, first of all, absolutely. The last point about wastages, it's important to note that when we revised the 2020 budget, you recall it went under a revision process, removed all sorts of different things, from constituency projects to liaison offices, guest houses, all these kinds of repeated transactions on laptops and printers and all of these things. We removed so much to be able to free up space to ensure that our capital expenditure is truly on what is going to impact the lives of our people and all of that as it relates to the economic sustainability plan. Now, earlier on, the distinguished professor made a point about agricultural mechanization. It's extremely important to note that when we talk about mechanization, it has already moved into a very, very critical phase of implementation. The Green Imperative, a $1.3 billion deal with the Brazilian government and the federal government of Nigeria, has been ratified by the Federal Executive Council, right? We're moving into implementation. What that is going to involve is the establishment of 780 mechanization centers across all local government areas of the Federation, where we're going to be employing 5 million young people who are going to be manufacturing, assembling, distributing, and most importantly, maintaining tractors and other agricultural mechanical equipment that will obviously improve not just the levels of production in terms of quantum and quantity, but also improve the quality of the production, and all of that. That's a major part of it. And then in addition to this, within the 780 centers, it's important to note that 632 of them are for what I mentioned, assembly for production of the instruments. But 148, the remaining 148, are for agro-processing. President Muhammadu Buhari has made it an emphasis that we must add value to all of our raw materials. So obviously we've just seen the presidential artisanal gold mining groundbreaking initiative, PAGMI, which deals with not just the exploitation of gold and formalizing that process for economic growth, but also formalizing the process of refinement so that we're producing from beginning to end gold in the country. He's doing the same in agriculture. So with these 142 agro-processing centers, you're going to now be able to move raw soybeans produced in this country and refine into vegetable oil, for example, so that we can save the forex we've been spending on imported vegetable oil and be selling to our people and eventually export on the international export market. So agricultural mechanization has already gone very far, and over the course of the next 3 years, our people would have seen exactly what it is I'm referring to in action.
Okay, let's go to Professor Ango. Professor Ango, as much as we are wrapping up, what are your concluding thoughts before we go?
My thoughts are, one, that ESP is a good plan. It's succeeding. It's coming in between this and the next plan. And even ERGP was good because we can see clearly this is a government that comes in with policies, in well-intentioned policies. However, I want to caution that, like has been stated earlier, that as much as possible, we should have a proper monitoring arrangement because in Hausa we have what you call Rijiya Taba da Ruwa Gugaya Hana. You know, it's like the well. When you have a well, you know, where you can fetch water, the well is there, it's willing to give you the water, but the implement you use to bring out the water is not releasing it. So what I'm trying to say basically is that even though there are good intentions, there must be proper monitoring. There is so much that has been done, and from what the SSS just said now, that will be done for the agricultural sector, especially in terms of value chain and processing. Now, however, we also must ensure in that regard that the inputs that come to farmers, especially seeds, you know, quite a lot, we need a lot of research, and quite a number of research centers are available. Maybe there are even too many. Maybe that is why we are not getting the kind of seeds we need. We need the technology. Farmers need to be enlightened. And then also, finally, with regards to one of the questions you mentioned, that is with regards to ensuring that this, whatever it is that government wants to do, goes around to every sector or every part of the country. What we have seen earlier plans where some parts of the country did not benefit as much. And those parts of the country are those that are the poorest, that need this thing. And I think what is required now, basically, is to call on the state governments, especially, and the local governments in those areas, to enlighten their people so that they can also key into these projects. These initiatives are there. These benefits are there. If people don't know about it, they will not be able to key in. So we'll call on the state governments concerned, and I'm talking about basically most of the northern state governments, to enlighten the people so that they can key into these various initiatives and take advantage of them, because quite a lot of poverty exists more in this part of the country than other parts.
Well, Professor Joshua Ango, as the Professor of Business Entrepreneurship and Dean Postgraduate School, it was nice having you on Tuesday Live tonight. Thanks for being on the program.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
Go to Professor Olomola. Professor Olomola, can we have your concluding thoughts, please?
Thank you very much. You know, there is a missing gap in the plan, which as we start to implement, we must attempt to bridge. There is no clear distinction or delineation of roles in the plan. Yet we call it a national economic sustainability plan. What are the roles of the local government? They are not clear-cut in the plan. So as we communicate the plan, therefore, we must have a technical group that will delineate the role of the state governments, the role of the local governments in the implementation of the various programs across the sectors. It is only then that we can call it a national economic sustainability plan. And most of the targets and the timelines and milestones will not be achieved unless there is political sustainability plan. There must be a political sustainability plan that will allow the number of people that should be employed to be employed, because they are cornered by the political class. That is the bane of economic development in this country. We have placed considerable weight on politics to affect investment, to depress employment, and also to cause economic slowdown all around in terms of delays in passing the budget until recently. So we need to have a political sustainability plan that will define the roles clearly between especially the legislature and the executive, and also to...
Thank you so much, Professor Olomola. Professor Olomola is Head of Research Management, Department of the Nigeria Social and Economic Research, Ibadan. He joined us from Ibadan Network Center. It was not having you on Tuesday Live tonight.
Very much for having me.
And back in the studio, we must say at some point the Minister of Finance, we lost signals. The engineers tried their very best to restore signals. That was not possible. It was really beyond our control. Well, we thank her so much for being part of the program while the signals lasted. And to the Senior Special Assistant to the President of Public Affairs, Ajurin Galele, it was not having you on the program tonight.
I'm always humbled to be with you. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your tweets and all your questions raised. We looked at the Economic Sustainability Plan. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.